Right.
Good day.
Okay. All right, welcome everyone. You're most welcome to this session. My name is Daniel Ddiba. I work with the Stockholm Environment Institute, and I am going to be moderating this session this afternoon or this morning or this evening, depending on where you're joining from. I can see we have quite a huge number of participants in the room. You're most welcome. We're going to just wait for a couple of minutes, just so we have a few more people join who might be on their way. We're trying to set up their technology. But in the meantime, for everybody that has joined, just so you know, please mute your microphone, especially if you're just an attendee and not a presenter. And later on, when we have the discussion that is open to the whole floor, then you can unmute your microphone if you need to say something. I also want to take this opportunity to let everybody know that we are recording this session. So if you are not okay with being recorded, then I recommend that you keep your video off and your microphone off as well. We're recording it just so other people who are not able to attend will have the opportunity to watch the proceedings and also participate or discuss the proceedings of the session on the SuSanA forum. And just in case there's anybody that by any chance might be in the wrong Teams call, this is the SuSanA 30th meeting, which is happening entirely virtually this year, with people joining in from all around the world. And this particular session is about the launch of the SuSanA Africa chapter, SuSanA being the Sustainable Sanitation Alliance. Once again, you are all most welcome. So just to get a feel of who we do have in the room, I would like to request everybody that is in the room, just type in the chat which city or country you're coming from, just so that we have a bit of a sense of our reach in this meeting. So just type in the chat which city you are joining from, yeah, and let us know where you are joining this session from. All right, I see we have representation from Bonn, Germany. We have Sao Paulo in Brazil. I didn't mention it at the start, but I'm joining you all live from my couch here in Stockholm. I see we have somebody from Berlin, Germany. We have Elizabeth from Nigeria joining us. You're most welcome, Elizabeth. We have Mr. Kone from the Water Integrity Network in Berlin. You're most welcome. We have Obinna Anah from Nigeria. You're most welcome. Good. Keep typing in the chat which city and country you're coming from, so that you talk to the world and we see the extent of the reach of this particular SuSanA session. All right, so we have quite a lineup of speakers and panelists that are going to be sharing with us today in the launch of this SuSanA chapter, the Africa chapter. I can see right now we have roughly 30 people in the room, so we are going to officially start off this session. But for the rest of you that are still joining, I encourage you. I see my very good colleague Jen Nabunya joining in all the way from Uganda. I see Christoph from Earwag. You're most welcome. Yeah, Keitumetse joining in from Gothenburg in Sweden. So I can see quite a number of continents are represented. We have Latin America here, we have Africa, quite a number of people from the European continent. I haven't seen anybody joining in from Asia yet. So if there's anybody representing Asia, please demonstrate your solidarity with the African continent today. All right, you're most welcome. I can see Doreen joining in from Bonn, Germany. Okay, So the session today is going to follow the following lineup. We'll have a few brief remarks from key stakeholders that are going to be contributing to the SuSanA Africa chapter. And after they give their few remarks, we shall have a panel discussion wherein we shall also have contributions to that discussion from everybody that is joining in the audience. So to start with, we are going to have a short talk from Dr. Elizabeth Wamera. Dr. Wamera is an international development specialist with very extensive experience in the WASH sector. Her work focuses on gender mainstreaming, coordination of the WASH sector, strategic planning, and also working closely in various multi-stakeholder partnerships across the entire water, sanitation, and hygiene sector. She's currently a senior technical WASH expert at the Water Supply and Sanitation Collaborative Council, which will soon evolve into the Sanitation and Hygiene Fund. And she's based in Geneva, Switzerland, where she's joining us from today. So everybody join me in welcoming Dr. Elizabeth Wamera to make a few remarks to kick off this session. You're welcome.
Thank you very much for introducing me. Very kind words from you. Thank you. It's good that you have already indicated what I want to talk about. I'd just like to share as a stakeholder that I'm very excited about the launch of the Africa chapter of SuSanA. And I'd like to share with you what we are hoping will happen as we move on. So most of the people on this call may have heard or know by now that the Water Supply and Sanitation Collaborative Council will be evolving into the Sanitation and Hygiene Fund by the 1st of January, 2021. This actually means that effective December 31st, 2020, we'll fold WSSCC and have the Sanitation and Hygiene Fund. The fund is intended to be a disruptor and change business as usual, but also recognizing that at the current rate, we will never achieve our sector goals. So we have to do things differently. We intend to significantly raise the resources available to the sector and to use this as catalysts to increase domestic expenditure on sanitation and hygiene, particularly for those with the highest burden and lowest ability to respond. For those who have been able to come across our strategy, you will realize that we are not departing from what we previously did, but we are becoming more focused and also mobilizing resources for the sector and not just for our programs. So the Sanitation and Hygiene Fund will fund the implementation of national strategies and plans. And this means that where there are not any strategies or plans yet, we will financially support the development of these plans with or through technical partners. And not only plans for ODF or household sanitation and hygiene, but also for WASH in schools, in healthcare facilities, and also menstrual hygiene and health management. Now, one of the things that we have discovered in the past few months as we were transforming is that partnerships are key. And for the Sanitation and Hygiene Fund, we realized as we were preparing to evolve into it and prepare our strategy, we learned through the other health global funds what they were doing and how they've been doing them to succeed. And this has taught us that you can only succeed if you are seen to be part of an alliance or a movement of partners all moving in the same direction. So it means you have to support governments to ultimately provide services to all. Otherwise, we are doing small bits and pieces here and there, and it's not very successful to ensure that we get to our point of 6.2, SDG goal 6.2. So the Sanitation and Hygiene Fund will maintain the focus on leaving no one behind that we had on with the council, and also on ensuring the voice for vulnerable populations. But that voice needs to be meaningful. It needs to be informed and able to reach where the decisions are being made. And for us, the launch of this regional chapter is very exciting for us. We have done quite a bit of work behind the scenes with Franzi and with Sareen to ensure that this actually takes off. So the launch for this chapter is very exciting for the Council and moving forward for SHF. Of course, the immediate focus of this launch is this civil society engagement, working with women, youth, and the vulnerable populations, which will be an important way and channel for meaningful sharing and learning. And also for providing that voice and space that is really required to ensure that we attain the 6.2. But only will we achieve this if we manage to link with other continental processes, such as we know, the Africa Ministers' Council on WASH, that is the AMCOW hub of hubs. I'm glad that Obinna is on this call. We are heavily relying on AMCOW to support the Africa Regional Chapter to ensure that the knowledge management, the kind of exchanges at a very high level that we have different governments also participating in, and the civil society voices and the women organizations and the youth as well. Not to forget the biggest challenge we are facing on mutual accountability processes. This we know very well is being spearheaded by Sanitation and Water for All and its partners. This is a critical partner in the sector for us, because at this point in time, then we are able to understand who is doing what and how are they doing it, and what can we bring in, or how can we complement as a partner to ensure that whatever efforts are being made actually lead to a result that is desired. So for us at the Water Supply and Sanitation Collaborative Council, moving into the Sanitation and Hygiene Fund, are very proud to be associated with the SuSanA Africa chapter. And at this point in time, we'd be very proud also to indicate that we are supporting them and will continue to support them, and hopefully also attain some results that we are focusing on as the Sanitation and Hygiene Fund through the SuSanA Africa Regional Chapter. Thank you very much.
Wow. Thank you very much, Elizabeth, for those very kind remarks. To start off, I noticed one key thing that I picked from what you said was that it's very important to be seen as part of an alliance if you would like to succeed. And I think that is something, again, that is at the center of the new Africa chapter of SuSanA that is going to be launched, trying to bring together different stakeholders in the WASH sector as part of a broader alliance to drive forward progress towards the SDGs. So thank you very much once again, Elizabeth. So ladies and gentlemen, once again, you're most welcome to this official launch of the SuSanA Africa chapter. We've just had remarks from Dr. Elizabeth Wamera from the Water Supply and Sanitation Collaborative Council, or soon to evolve into the Sanitation and Hygiene Fund, opening of the session. And next, we are going to have Sareen Malik, who is the Executive Secretary for the African Civil Society Network on Water and Sanitation, or in brief, ANEW. Sareen is going to be working very closely as part of the coordinating team for the new Africa Regional Chapter. She's a specialist in water governance, advocacy, program management, and organizational development. She has previously worked in quite a number of organizations across the international development and water, sanitation, and hygiene sector, including the Kenya Water and Sanitation NGO Network, Transparency International, among many others. And I might also mention that she's the vice chair of the Sanitation and Water for All Steering Committee. And so we are very pleased and glad to have her, not just in this session, but also spearheading the Africa Regional Chapter. So everybody welcome with me, Sareen.
Thank you very much, Daniel, for that wonderful welcome. And thank you all for being here today and really being part of what is a really important milestone for ANEW. Let me start by first thanking really WSSCC, SuSanA, really for giving us the opportunity to actually bring to life a particular pillar within our strategic plan, which was known as the knowledge management pillar. Now, it stands there as one of the highest level we can be as ANEW, which is really aspirations to become a knowledge supplier within the sector. And to be honest, a couple of months ago, when we kept looking at that pillar, it was always being put forth as that maybe in a couple of years, maybe when we've achieved other points. But when WSSCC got in touch with us and Fancy, the team got in touch with us and said, look, can we do this? It was really something in a sense like, oh my goodness, this actual pillar that we were looking at from afar is actually going to become one of the first pillars that we're going to achieve or strive to achieve or lay the foundations to achieve for ANEW. So this is an important milestone for our members, for our partners. The demand from our members for better visibility, the demand from our members for resources, for knowledge, and in terms of making sure that their voices are heard and represented. I know there's been a lot of discussions in the past couple of weeks on the decolonization of WASH knowledge on the continent. And we do hope that this would equally speak to this movement that is taking root in terms of what WASH CSOs bring on the table and how is our knowledge presented, used, and actually disseminated. If I may, Finn, the next slide. Thank you. Thank you. So as a start off, as I mentioned, this is really ANEW and SuSanA joining forces for knowledge management. And the overall is really, as I mentioned, take local and global knowledge to scale, receive access to knowledge management tools, and to communicate. But the why did we do this? When we were preparing for the SuSanA concept and getting, in the information ready, when we conducted a number of consultations across the continent, a couple of things came up in terms of this would inherently help us address some of the WASH knowledge management constraints that we were seeing on the continent. Number one, the fact that we were missing a civil society organization, some central point where all our knowledge, our documentation, and our experiences can be stored, can be accessed. Number two, we are well too aware of some of the challenges that we have as WASH CSOs on the continent in terms of how we manage our knowledge. More often or not, we have these valuable experiences that are not making themselves to the surface, that tend to stay within closed quarters, or sometimes because, of course, we are all at risk of higher staff turnover and the fact that we have brain drain in terms of losing a lot of this knowledge. So initially, the spirit of this particular, of this partnership, the spirit of the SuSanA Africa Regional Chapter is really to harness, collect, and act as a repository for the knowledge that the continent is actually churning and helping better documentation and really getting our experiences and our stories out there. One thing that is not mentioned over here, but that is important, was also the communication of what is it that we're communicating. Yes, we're communicating our experiences. Yes, we're communicating the work that we have done, but there was an additional element in the sense of trying to communicate our failures. So this is also the spirit a bit of this platform, in the sense that removing a bit the stigma from projects that have not worked, things that have not worked, but really putting this on a general forum so that the learning experience can really be enriched by the positive as well as what did not go so well. Next slide, please, Finn. there are some core activities that my colleague Keitumetse is going to break down. You have read, those that may have looked at the initial concept notes, that one of the key focuses actually of this partnership is, of course, influencing policy, evidence-based approach, strengthening the evidence-based approach, but also a strong focus on women and youth. We have lately, I think it's been in the works for a couple of years, but over the past 1 year, and I think with the acceleration of the pandemic, or maybe the way of working have changed, we are seeing active involvement and engagement of women in the WASH sector across the continent. This is the establishment of different partnerships, making sure that our programs speak more to gender, not in a generic way, but really giving concrete, really giving spaces to what is gender and WASH, or what is women and WASH, as well as involving the youth. So as ANEW, it is actually one of our key focuses within our approach, which is women and youth in terms of the involvement. And this is something we've seen pretty much whether in sub-Saharan Africa, or even where I'm sitting here currently in North Africa, where there's a demand actually from women practitioners in the sector that when we go for the next meeting for the Grand Renaissance Dam, let it not all just be men in the room, that more women need to participate. And we hope that this platform will give a voice and will give space for women and youth to really, build on this visibility and build on the capacities of women. There's also enforcing the capacity as well of our members, as I mentioned earlier on, in terms of how do we better present our information. And this, of course, preventing duplication, efforts by motivating matchmaking. There's always a demand for a lot of peer learning, and this really in a lot of surveys and consultations that have been taking place by different partners on the continent, peer learning comes up a lot. Knowledge management comes up a lot. And in fact, in the case of ANEW, when we were assessing why would a member pay the membership fee, I can assure you that knowledge management was the first thing that actually came up, including the element of capacity building. And of course, where we can, building consensus wherever possible to unify the sector and build also upon the work of local champions that want to make use of the SuSanA platform as an international sounding board. We know that our members, our partners, and WASH practitioners want to be heard, want to be seen at the global and international level. And we hope and we pray that this partnership, that the launch of the Africa Regional Chapter will fulfill just that. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Sareen, for those very interesting remarks. I noted that you talked about knowledge management, and I agree entirely. That's a key part and the key incentive for why this Africa Regional Chapter of SuSanA is being launched, and I really look forward to seeing how it will catalyze these efforts for knowledge exchange and knowledge sharing across many different stakeholders on the African continent and beyond. And of course, you also talked about why it's important to share about failures, and that is a trend that we see not just in the WASH sector, but also within international development and many other sectors, that we need to share more and more with each other about when things go wrong, so that we can learn from that and not reinvent the failures that others before us have done. So that's very important remarks. I see a few people have made a few comments in the chat, and I welcome all of you that are attending this session. If there is something that interests you or you have a point to make, please feel free to make a comment in the chat. I see Jen Nabunya from Uganda has said, thank you, Dr. Elizabeth Wamera, for emphasizing the importance of the role of government, providing the required leadership, the enabling environment, and permits for non-state actors to operate and support the WASH sector. And we also see Elizabeth Wamera, one of our SuSanA Forum champions and really a champion of the WASH sector, saying, yeah, this sounds great, and we actually already have a space for the SuSanA chapter already set up on the SuSanA discussion forum. So she has provided a link in the chat. I encourage every one of you to check it out, put a comment, let your voice be heard, for this is why we are here. There's also somebody talking about knowledge management, Naguna Kone. Knowledge management is key, especially in the continent, because it brings an exchange of ideas, failures, while also building south-to-south cooperation. And he's curious if ANEW has a knowledge management strategy to share. I think you'll be able to take that bilaterally with Sareen, or we shall share later about what different strategies for knowledge management in the discussion section. I note that we have quite a huge representation. We've seen people from Nigeria, Morocco, Kenya, Uganda, South Africa represented. If there's any African country I've not yet mentioned, please type in the chat which city, which country you're connecting from. Oh, Zambia is represented, so that you talk to the world and we know that you have been present to represent your constituency, so to speak. But we also have people all the way from India, Brazil, UK, Germany. I'm joining live from my couch in Stockholm, Sweden. So we see quite a show of solidarity for the new Africa regional chapter that is being launched today. Once again, everybody, you are most welcome to this session. We are going to have just one more presentation that is going to be more focused on what are the activities and tasks that the SuSanA regional chapter is going to be running. And this is going to be presented by a good friend and colleague, Keitumetse Tsubane, all the way from the land of Lesotho. She is a WASH and youth engagement enthusiast with a background in environmental science and aquatic ecotoxicology. She's currently one of the SuSanA Africa Regional Chapter coordinators, and previously she has worked with a number of organizations focusing on waste management, water and sanitation, including Water Aid, Group 2, and also she recently worked with the SuSanA Secretariat based at GIZ. And like most people in this session, she's bitten by the sanitation bug, so she's really enthusiastic about the sanitation sector. So everybody join me and welcome Keitumetse to tell us about the activities of the SuSanA regional chapter.
Thank you very much, Daniel, for the interesting intro. And I shall be talking about a few things that SuSanA is about and more. So firstly, I would like to thank Sareen and Elizabeth for all their inputs. I think they have said a lot about why we are all here. So now I'll just go through a bit of what SuSanA is about and what we are aiming to achieve with the Africa Regional Chapter, and also the activities that are lined up to achieve all those outcomes that we're hoping to get by the end of the year. So firstly, if not all, most of you have seen or heard what SuSanA is about, but it is about networking. It's an open, dynamic, and global network, which currently has just about 12,500 members and 360 partners across the globe. And we would like to see these numbers growing now that we're going to launch the African chapter. A lot of more people should individually join the SuSanA network, and more organizations are welcome to come to join the SuSanA Secretariat. So the strengths of SuSanA are actually the SuSanA members. As we are now, Daniel being the moderator and everybody else, dedicating your time freely, networking, planning the sessions, and just showing enthusiasm in trying to get the sanitation news across. It is the investment of each and everyone's that makes the SuSanA network successful. So we have a lot of activities across the world. I mean, the last one was in Uganda, in Kampala, the last 29th SuSanA meeting, and it had a lot of members that attended that. But this one is online. It's still quite exciting, even though we cannot be in a physical form. Also, we have SuSanA partners. And the SuSanA partners are spread across a lot of other categories. We have your universities, the private sector, we have local NGOs and the government entities. So most of partners are the local NGOs and international NGOs. But now with the upcoming African chapter, we are hoping to see more of our local NGOs from the African continent. So what is the goal of SuSanA? Like Elizabeth mentioned earlier and Sareen, that we are really now in the era of SDGs, and now SuSanA is really trying to achieve the SDGs by promoting sanitation systems based on principles of sustainability. And everyone has been talking about the SDG 6, and SuSanA is really pushing forward to see that the SDG 6 is achieved when in 2030 and beyond. So now, since the SuSanA Secretariat is all about networking, sharing ideas, knowledge management, and everything, it came to SuSanA Secretariat's attention that it'd be really nice to have SuSanA regional chapters. And these SuSanA regional chapters are aimed at connecting local needs and to make SuSanA's knowledge products and services more accessible on the ground, because each country or each region has quite unique sanitation or wash challenges. And should people in those continents or in those regions come together, it is better to solve their problems. So that's why we have regional chapters. So these chapters are also like cooperative systems that are projects within the SuSanA network, and they work closely with the SuSanA Secretariat and the SuSanA core group. Much as every chapter has their own formalized structure, their specific outputs, but at the end of the day, the chapters are still working towards achieving sustainable sanitation solutions across all the challenges. So the chapters have also specific timelines, and they have specific budgets. Hence, we have specific activities for each chapter. As we speak now, we have 3 existing regional chapters. We have the India chapter, which was the first chapter, the Latin American chapter, and the West Asia and North Africa chapter. I think the one interesting thing about these chapters is that, for instance, the Latin American chapter, the activities they have, from having the forums, from their webinars, to their publications, they are in Spanish. So that I found really amusing, that we are really trying for sustainable sanitation, and language is not a barrier. If then more solutions in the Latin American chapter or in the Latin American region are better achieved through similar languages, then we might as well just use language that everybody understands, so long as we are pushing for sustainable sanitation. Right now, we are gathered here for the Africa Regional Chapter. And talking about language, I realized that we have vast languages in Africa. So maybe with our activities, we can actually explore different languages in which we can communicate to achieve whatever solutions we want in our different countries. But going through what the main aims are for this Africa Regional Chapter, firstly, we want to strengthen the voice, the capacity, and the role of all critical actors in the sanitation sector. And this, we need to achieve and maintain universal access to safely managed water and sanitation services in African countries. We all know that we have a lot of challenges, and hopefully by having this chapter, we can have one voice and try to achieve the solutions together. We also aspire to enhance knowledge management sharing between and within African sanitation actors and the international SuSanA community. Like Sareen mentioned earlier, it is very critical to share knowledge. Like, there is so much research that is done on the African context, and some work is done in silos. So it's about time that actors come together in one setting to actually share knowledge, so that we don't even duplicate the kind of work that one organization is doing or one institution is doing. So we have planned activities. How are we planning to have this? How are we planning to share knowledge? How are we planning to have the actors sitting in one room and working together? We have 4 core activities that we have. Number 1 is we want to establish, curate, and maintain a regional knowledge hub. We want to empower the leadership of African women in the WASH sector. Also, we need to strengthen individuals and youth organization partnerships in the WASH sector. And as I mentioned, the CSO engagement in key WASH processes and events. These are our core 4 planned activities, but we are not only limited to this. That's why we have everybody on board today to come discuss further what kind of activities do we think are going to drive this aim through. So the first one is the establishment and the curation and maintenance of the Regional Knowledge Hub. We have already the SuSanA library. It has a lot of publications from different regions, from different countries. So now we would want to bring the regional chapter library together, such that if you come into the regional chapter, you're going to find work or publications that come from an African context. So we also have the partner profiles. We have a lot of partners across the world, but we have quite a number, actually around 122 partners of the total of 257 partners of SuSanA are from the African context. Also, we have the project database, and of the 514 projects, 207 are from or are the projects that are done in the sub-Saharan region. We also have the discussion forum that Elizabeth already wrote about earlier, that there's already a dedicated forum where we can talk about now going forward what we want to achieve with the African chapter. We also have the events calendar where members and partners can come and share the kind of events that they're doing in the different countries. In this events calendar, members can come actually update, what are you doing? If there's something happening in Nigeria, if you put it in the calendar, then everybody knows what each and every WASH actor is doing in the region. We also have going to plan to have chapter newsletters. The other chapters already have their newsletters, but hopefully we'll have our newsletters soon from the African context. And we hope that we can incorporate the WASH professional database, as was discussed in a meeting in now. Also incorporate the hub of hubs from AMCOW, such that we have the knowledge in one space. And also the empowerment of leadership of African women in the WASH sector. There's a lot of work that has already been done, which is amazing. So with SuSanA, we need to support and strengthen the emerging national women and WASH sanitation networks. Also intend to showcase the female leadership examples and share their becoming. It is so nice when we're women in the WASH sector, like Elizabeth, like Sareen, actually talking about their journey in becoming, so that it inspires a lot of other young upcoming professionals like myself. That's why I'm here, thanks to these women. And also we need to support the identification of mentors for women and matchmaking of regional women's mentorships schemes. And there's a lot of other organizations I feel that are doing this. So it is nice that we all come on board and share what kind of work are we doing and how do we support each other to do this. Also the strengthening of individuals and youth organizations partners in the WASH sector. So we intend to support youth involvement at different levels through outreach channels, visibility, and providing a platform for exchange and networking, and support youth-led approaches, because there are a lot of approaches that are done, but they're mostly traditional. So now we are hoping that with this platform, we will have an open channel for the young people to bring on board what kind of approaches they want to have sanitation challenges fixed. And also we want to encourage a space where youth and WASH veterans can forge a mutualistic relationship, maybe through mentorship programs also, or we can have people that have been players in the WASH sector coming through and mentoring young individuals. And also we're going to involve the CSOs, as Sareen also mentioned earlier. So this, we are planning to inform about African sanitation policy guidelines, process and progress, and use network members as sounding board to this sanitation policy. We're also aiming to support AMCOW's annual declaration and commitments monitoring processes and identify and mobilize practitioners for the Africa San 2021, which is upcoming. So we're hoping that a lot of WASH actors in the African context will come to surface and play a very vital role in achieving the AfriSan 2021 and just driving the mandate through. So what are we actually planning to achieve after all of this? The outcomes that we are looking for are enabling greater visibility and engagement through effective knowledge management and outreach, and to drive development debates and actions that prioritize gender, youth, poverty, equality, and inclusion in the WASH sector. And we're hoping to build and strengthen the capacity and participation of African CSOs in ongoing sector processes. So with this, I hope now everybody has an overview of what the SuSanA Africa Regional Chapter is hoping to achieve. And everybody, please, you're welcome to bring in all your inputs. And thank you very much for your attention.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you very much, Keitumetse, for that very interesting overview of the origins of the SuSanA Africa chapter, but also the key tasks and activities that you're looking at starting with over the next few months. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, I want to let you know that this session is the official launch, global virtual launch of the Africa Regional Chapter of the Sustainable Sanitation Alliance. You're almost welcome. This session, just so you know, is being recorded. So if you would not like to be recorded, make sure that your camera is off and, of course, your microphone as well. But otherwise, the aim is to make sure that others that have not been able to join can access the material later. If you have something interesting from the session that you would like to tweet, welcome to do so with the hashtag SuSanA30. But also you're most welcome to post about this session, but also your thoughts and your input and your contributions to the SuSanA Forum. There is a special page that was set up about the Africa Regional Chapter, and our colleague Elizabeth posted a link to that page in the chat. Thank you once again, Keitumetse, for that overview of the upcoming activities of the Africa Regional Chapter. I noted when you outlined the activities that the chapter will be starting with, the Knowledge Management Hub, amplifying women leadership in the sector, but also engaging youth in the sector. And one might also note that actually the median age in the African continent is 19 years. So Africa is a continent of young people. Nothing can happen without their involvement, but also the crucial involvement of the civil society organizations in driving progress in the WASH sector. And I noticed that this aligns very closely with the remarks that Elizabeth made at the very beginning of this session, that to succeed, you must be seen as part of an alliance. And it's interesting to note that these key activities are actually focusing on creating an alliance across various stakeholders in the WASH sector, knowledge producers and knowledge consumers, making use of the Knowledge Management Hub, but also women, youth, and civil society. So trying to create an alliance of all these very important stakeholders to drive progress in the sanitation sector in Africa. So thank you very much for those remarks and giving us an overview. Ladies and gentlemen, we are getting into the last part of this session, which is a discussion reflecting on what has been shared by the previous speakers, but also getting your input and your contributions. If you have a question that you want to ask, feel free to post it in the chat box. If you want to speak it out loud, then please raise your hand and I will pick you and give you the floor. But to start off with, we are going to have a couple of remarks from somebody I might call keynote listener, so to speak. He's a colleague that has been here from the beginning of the session, listening to the presentations from other colleagues, and is also going to give a brief input about how the SuSanA Africa Regional Chapter will coordinate with some of the other key stakeholders on the continent. And this is none other than Mr. Obinna Anah. He's the lead for knowledge management at the African Ministerial Council on Water and Sanitation based in Abuja, Nigeria. He has worked on knowledge management and communications in several projects for organizations including DFID, USAID, the EU, amongst others, and is currently responsible for driving AMCOW's knowledge management strategy and also developing a continental knowledge hub of hubs. And that's something that was briefly touched upon by Keitumetse in her presentation. So he's keen to drive collaboration across the WASH sector continent-wide, and is also going to be contributing to the discussion that we are going to be having. And so I will pose the first question that will be responded to by our colleague Obinna. But the rest of you, if you have a question, please feel free. I will be monitoring the chat to see questions that you're asking. And then the previous speakers will also be able to respond to your questions if you have anything specific. But the first question that I will ask to our colleague Obinna is that you see, how do you see your organization as AMCOW planning? What's the plan for AMCOW to contribute to the activities of the SuSanA regional chapter, but also how does AMCOW plan to take advantage of the newly created Africa regional chapter? You're welcome to give us a few remarks on that.
Thank you very much for inviting AMCOW to this event. I bring you greetings from the Executive Secretary of AMCOW, who has permitted me to be here. We are happy about the development. I just posted some minutes ago on the chat box. We're happy for this new baby that has been born. Yeah, we've been talking for a while with SuSanA, and ANEW has been part of our discussions. And I think I want to say congratulations to Africa, and congratulations to the WASH sector for this new direction that we're taking. It's an effort in the right direction. And being a knowledge management person for a very long time, I believe that the more attention we pay to knowledge management and learning, the wiser we'll become as a continent to achieve our goals. You know, because knowledge helps you to drive processes. I remember some years ago when we were talking about the information age, but I think now we have stepped forward to the knowledge age, and so many other professionals are talking about wisdom. So it's knowledge that will make you wise. We have a lot of goals in front of us. The Africa we want, the Agenda 2063, which is supposed to be achieved. We have the Africa Water Vision. We have the SDGs to achieve, and you can't do these things without knowledge. And knowledge is a bit difficult to manage. Yes, we talk about knowledge management, but knowledge management is not so easy because you see knowledge popping up every day from different angles, different professionals, and being able to put them together, structure them, and ensure that they are adopted, adapted, and give birth to change is not so much an easy thing. So having an organization like ANEW coming on board, I see that we have given birth to another terminal. ANEW for us is going to be a terminal to reach to the deeper communities of people that program implementers want to reach to and bring development. And being a terminal is strategic because they are now going to be, to an extent, helping to create an agenda within the societies and within the media sector. So when I was called yesterday and told that we're going to be launching this today, I was very happy about it. And I know that my organization is also very happy because they are aware of what is happening. Then strategically, I'm looking at another big role that ANEW will be playing. When I resumed office at AMCOW, I inherited, like you know, the declarations and decisions and commitments of the heads of states and governments and the African Union. So Sharm el-Sheikh declaration actually put a commitment on AMCOW to ensure the enhancement of information and knowledge management and monitoring and learning, so that we could have harmonized and evidence-based data for decision makers to be able to pull through some policy and decisions and create change and development in the continent. So I'm looking at a situation whereby ANEW can be a very big player in terms of driving this also to the locals. Yes, AMCOW is going to be providing support as usual to the member states, but you see, some of these supports you cannot do alone. So there's something we call CLA, collaboration, learning, and adaptation, which any true knowledge management organization will not take their eyes off it. So we want to know that we are collaborating with the right persons and the right organizations, just like Elizabeth said earlier. If you don't have an alliance, or if you don't show yourself to be aligning with other organizations, you may not be able to achieve big success. Yeah, you could provide as much as you can in knowledge, but if it's not used, it is of no use. So if we are collaborating with the right organizations, with the right actors and players and individuals, then the next thing is learning. Are we learning what we're supposed to learn? We're supposed to be able to have an agenda for what do we need to learn to be able to achieve the SDGs. The SDGs are there. Why have we not achieved the Millennium Development Goal? What are the gaps? So we need to be able to identify the required learning that should be introduced into our continent or into our system or the sector. So we want to be able to be sure. Number one, I said, we want to be able to be sure that we're collaborating with the right persons or groups. We want to be able to know that we're learning what we ought to learn. Then the third one is the adaptation. We want to be able to know that what we're learning is being introduced into the system. It's not enough to have knowledge, but if you have knowledge and you don't put it to practice, then the system cannot change. So all these goals that I've mentioned, the agenda that I've mentioned, are things that if the African society will achieve these things, we would have known that, yes, development has come as it's supposed to be. And that is the reason why you have development organizations. Bring in new knowledge, adapt them, adapt them, and you find out that there's a change somewhere. So ANEW coming on board will help to drive the collaboration, learning, and adaptation. While AMCOW may be doing a lot of big things at the strategic level, I think we would be glad to work hand in hand with them. At this juncture, you allow me to chip in what Elizabeth said earlier. How WSSCC is getting transformed into SHF, right?
Yes, the Sanitation and Hygiene Fund.
Okay, good. WSSCC recently have supported us in acquiring. We are about to acquire a machine that will help to digitalize materials, knowledge materials that are not in digital format. We are grateful for that, but we look forward to doing more. Yeah, we look forward to doing more with them, even as they transform to the new system which they will.
Sanitation and Hygiene Fund.
Yeah, we look forward to working together, developing step notes and structuring the things, the knowledge that is coming up from our professionals, our researchers, and our centers of excellence, and making them usable to our community. So once more, I welcome ANEW on board, and I say we are happy and we'll continue to engage with them and support one another as much as we can.
Okay, thank you very much for those remarks, Obinna. It's interesting, of course, you mentioned supporting at governmental level, but also working together to drive initiatives at the local level. And of course, this goes in line with trying to build alliances so that we can drive progress in the wash sector. I see a hand raised by James Giba. Do you want to make a comment? No? Okay, probably the hand might have been raised by mistake. So just once again, I see a few comments that have been made in the chat. I see Elizabeth was asking if there is funding to drive the chapter, and I want to reiterate that the Water Supply and Sanitation Collaborative Council has generously provided funding to kickstart the Africa Regional Chapter of SuSanA. But of course, all the other organizations that are represented in this session, you are more than welcome to chip in and make contributions to the sector, but of course also to this Africa Regional Chapter. In cash or in kind, all contributions are welcome for progress towards achieving the SDGs. I see a few comments that have been made, good presentation about the strategy and the breakdown of the chapter activities. Elizabeth and a few others talked about enriching the SuSanA library with material focused on the African continent by African authors, and also the project database. And also Jen from Uganda, Namunya, mentioned that knowledge management is a key part of driving advocacy so that we can drive more strategic change in support of achieving the SDGs connected to sanitation. I do not see any question in the chat box, just a few. The only one that I can see, maybe it's the last one that we shall answer because we are fast running out of time, is coming from Elizabeth, and I will welcome the previous speakers, Keitumetse or Sareen, to respond to this. What have we learned from the other three SuSanA regional chapters that we can now apply to this Africa regional chapter? What worked and what didn't work? Keitumetse or Sareen, any of you happy to take that question? What did you learn from the other chapters?
I will let Keitumetse, since she has a pretty good overview of the three chapters. Over to you, Keitumetse.
Thank you very much, Sareen. I was about to say over to you too, but anyway. Elizabeth, with the time that I had with the regional chapters, what I learned mostly that worked, like I mentioned earlier, was the ability to use the language that locals understand. If you want to drive change in a different region, for instance, we have regions that exchange in French, so it would be really nice to have any other activities with the language that the locals can understand. But so far, just having activities that solve regional problems. If we are sitting in Zambia and we have a Zambian problem to solve, bringing in Zambian actors to solve that problem. I've seen that work with other chapters, but if any chapter coordinators from WANA or others can just chip in to let us know or give us an idea of what works best and what they've learned through working in their own chapters, we are most welcome.
Thank you for that overview. I do not see any other questions apart from brief comments that people have made in the chat. I see, I think this was Navnuma Kone who said, please inform us of some of the challenges and opportunities faced to date in developing this strategy for the chapter and how these have shaped the strategy moving forward. I guess that we are going to have to take it up on the SuSanA forum going forward. We have come to the end of our session. This was all the time that we had been allotted. I want to acknowledge the solidarity with the African continent that has been shown in this session. We've had representation from all the continents of the world, I think, except Australia. So we shall have some beef to pick with the Australians next time, hopefully. Yeah, but we had people from India, Brazil, UK, Germany, lots of people from the European continent, but also many parts of Africa, North Africa, West, East, and Southern Africa presented in this call, about 51 participants at the peak. And I see many comments in the chat box saying, congratulations. Oh, I made a huge mistake. Elizabeth is joining live from Australia, so I apologize. I eat back my words. Thank you very much for that correction, Elizabeth. Thank you for representing Australia in solidarity with the Africa Regional Chapter. Many people are saying congratulations, and I think highlighting the key component of the activities of the chapter, knowledge management, that will be ongoing. I see an African proverb that has been posted here by our very good colleague Nabnuma Kone, saying, knowledge is like a baobab tree. One person's arms cannot encompass it alone. So with that very wise remark from Kone, I want to call this session to an end. And officially, we can all say that the Africa Regional Chapter is launched. Thank you, everybody, for joining, and we can continue the discussion on the SuSanA forum and contribute ideas, questions, and any other suggestions. Thank you, everyone. Have a good rest of the afternoon.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye-bye. Thanks for participating, Cecilia. Thanks for participating, Elizabeth, all the way from the land down under. Yeah, thanks.